Hi, this is Cheryl. I'm so happy that you're joining me today. Trust that this safe and loving space is exactly where you're supposed to be to ignite your higher self and empower you at this very moment in time. There are no coincidences. Trust the nudges that speak to you. Hello and welcome. Welcome back. Today I'm going to start a 5-part series on psychic abilities. And the reason why I'm starting a 5-part series is number one, I want to take each psychic ability, and I want to just define that individually. There's always crossover, especially when you're either talking about your personal life and wanting to connect with the spiritual realm. I'm going to be speaking on all of the series. I'm going to include my mediumship work in my validation. So you're going to see that it's sectioned off, but it completely, I really wanted to work to just describe one single psychic ability, just so you can clearly see that. And it's kind of interesting that I use that word clearly, because that brings me right into the start of this episode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to define psychic and abilities. I'm going to define it very clearly and foundationally. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I'm really just going to kind of just do the basics of it, because we could talk all day on this. And then I'm going to talk about how that one psychic ability in today's clairvoyance, how that works in my mediumship, how I validate with it, and I will also add a share using a mediumship share in one of my experiences on just this psychic ability. So first I start with, what does the word psychic mean? Psychic means that you use your senses that are not explained by human senses. Now, that's a great starting point, and I really am going to ask you just to take a second and just sit with that. So our human senses is something we were drilled into as kindergartners, right? See, feeling, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling. And so I need to just let you know, especially on this first part of the series, is we have matching psychic senses to our human senses. And we call those clairs, and that's spelled Clairs. And so the Latin prefix clair means clear, Clear. And I know they sound like synonyms, but they really aren't. So when we use that word clear in front of all the psychic abilities, and you'll see that that is the prefix, it means clear, clear blank, clear blank. So today is, and it matches up our psychic, and again, our psychic and our human senses, or our physical senses, they match up. So today's psychic ability I'm going to focus in on is clairvoyance, and that matches up with uh, our human ability of seeing. So clear seeing, and again, psychic ability, that is our lighted side, or some might call our sixth sense. I'm not going to go in that too deeply, but I do also believe that we are absolutely born with a sixth sense. So clairvoyance is our word today, is our ability today, excuse me. So when you are a clear seer, you see visions or pictures in your mind's eye. And so how does that look like in psychicness, in your sixth sense, in your not your human senses? It's seeing those visions, maybe spirits, present, past, future. Maybe you see premonitions, and it almost seems like an awakened dream, but you're not asleep. It is happening in your mind's eye, and it is not something that can be supported in the natural world. And I think that's always a big piece, and you'll hear me repeat that quite often in the upcoming episodes as well. So how does that look like from my physical, from my humanness? How do I know that I'm a clairvoyant, if that's one of my strong psychic abilities? We all are psychic, but we all have differing abilities and differing levels of abilities. And that's a reason that I've chosen to kind of make this a 5-part series. So you can decide or lean into what you feel your highest or strongest psychic ability is, or just kind of tap into it and kind of play with it and just kind of see, because I guarantee what you want to see, you will see. So always trust that. So the physical awareness might be very creative, certainly very visual, and I think that that's a really big piece of the clairvoyancy. Maybe a strong dreamer, very vivid in colors in your dreaming. That might be some other pieces that that kind of say, hmm, yeah, that does kind of fit me. I wonder, let me kind of investigate my mind's eye and see if it comes through in not a natural setting or sense. And so some careers or some jobs that we tend to go through as a clairvoyance, I am also a clairvoyant, is maybe an artist, builders, photographers, decorators, designers. Again, very much a visual aspect of it. So now let's talk about how it works in my mediumship. I am a clairvoyant, and that does mean that I have clear seeing in my mind's eye. And my earliest memory is really supportive of this psychic ability. I always saw faces. Faces were always looking at me, even as a young child. And I truly, I didn't understand that, but I just felt as though everybody saw the same thing. So I truly never discussed it with anyone. And it's really interesting to kind of look back and see that I had all those experiences and I never told anyone. But that was my process, that was my path, and we can talk about that another time. So I will say that also, I am a spiritual medium, but I am very concrete. And when I say that, I know it sounds like opposites, but it really isn't. I need proof. I need proof that what I'm seeing is really what I'm really seeing, because I am perfectly imperfect as you all are. And when we're in our when we're in our spiritual realm, I'm constantly saying, am I really seeing this? Is this what you're trying to tell me? And I'm talking in my thoughts a mile a minute, a bazillion miles a minute, I always say in my readings, always validating. So I will go into that as well. So I looked to my clairvoyancy as a very dominant sense, because if I see something, it's concrete to me. It's not always the strike it's delivered, but sometimes it is. And let me just walk you through a little bit more. So when I'm shown a picture, I know I need to walk towards it. I know that it is part of the reading, and that the spiritual realm, loved ones or guides or past lifetimes, wherever the channel is originating, they're working to communicate with me. So sometimes that picture can be figurative or literal, I say. So the literal, let me give you an example. I see a mountain. It's just showing me a mountain. It captures the whole mind's eye, just a big old mountain. And sometimes it's literal for the sitter, and they say, oh, I know what that means. Maybe we were in the midst of talking about a place of serenity, and I'm seeing a mountain, and oh, Mount Fuji is, I'm making up a mountain. That is a mountain I always go to when I need healing, or per se. But if someone says, no, I don't know, or sometimes I'm already picking up that it is not literal, because I'm already validating. Are you talking about literal or figurative? And so I'm validating, which I'll talk about a little deeper later. But sometimes it's a symbol. So a mountain can be a symbol for me, which is that figurative piece. And a mountain for me means, in the psychic world knows, or the spiritual world knows, that it means a challenge, kind of climbing up a challenge. So sometimes it's a strike, and that mountain was, oh, that's where I go. And sometimes I call it a popcorn trail, where I need to go. But I know when I see a picture that is concrete for me. So the messages come, just as I say, with pictures and visions and movies, and sometimes can include full detail or just parts, because again, the spiritual world is trying their best to meet me at my energy levels and communicate messages through me. So an example of that would be, and again, we're working with my mediumship and clairvoyancy, is I see a loved one that's coming through, and we've talked about the loved one, and we validated through other evidence that this is a loved one. And they'll bring their face in my mind's eye, and I don't see a detail around the face, but I see the nose. The nose is really highlighted, and I'm saying, I'm seeing a nose. I might talk it through, but again, I'm talking in my thoughts all the time, saying, "Why are you showing me a nose?" And so I would say, and this is an example of how the psychic senses or the psychic abilities combine, because I see a nose. I know that that nose is something strongly evidence, or a strong characteristic, or there's something there. And so I might say, I might use another sense, and I say, okay, why are you showing me the nose? And I might hear That's another psychic ability we'll go to on the next episode. But I might hear that it was really big, or I might see it really big too. It might like really show itself big or crooked. So sometimes they combine. And so I'll say, if they can't, I said the making mention of the nose. I'm seeing the nose very clearly. Was your nose like extraordinarily big, or did you have a did you guys like talk about that, or kind of laugh about that? And generally that is where the popcorn trail takes me, and we find why that picture was shown to me. So that is an example of my mediumship and how I use my clairvoyancy. And when I see a picture, again, I know that that is concrete for me. So it's one of my my most dominant senses, because I know there's someplace to go with that. And you'll see as we talk about other psychic abilities, sometimes they're a lot more subtle. So they can float in and out. But a picture to me, concrete, black and white, not truly, but I know I need to go somewhere with that. So just like I mentioned, I am a constant validator. I am constantly asking, like, are you showing me that you're showing me the, why are you showing me the nose? And so how I see and how I validate using that is working with a mantra that is is my essence. It is the name of this podcast, and it is the reason why I'm here today. Is light is right. If something feels light, I always say it is right. It means that you're on your path of truthness. It means that I am where I should be, because our ego and our humanness cannot manufacture that feeling of light. And light resonates differently with everyone in different situations on different days. But I trust that people know what light feels like for them. And so I'm constantly validating my messages. So if I was to say, again, about the nose, I kind of touched upon it a little as well, but I would say, uh, professionally, are you showing me the nose? And I would see in my mind's eye, again, because that's what I'm looking for my validation, I would see the word yes in my mind's eye, or I would see a head motion going up and down like yes or no, if it's a no. And if I was to ask a personal question, which I am constantly, again, asking in my humanness, personal questions. So an example might be, and I always start when I'm asking for myself in a personal way. I always start with a little prayer mantra: in light and love and my highest best good. And I would say, do I book this doctor's appointment? And I would, once I'm cleared and I ask that question, I would get the same clairvoyant validation. Maybe I would see the word yes, I'd see a head nod, maybe I see a combination. And sometimes if it's not a yes, I would see a no, or I would get the head nod would show like up and down and left and right. And then that would bring my attention to, was I clear when I asked that question? Let me ask it again. Let me make sure I'm clear. The earth chatter needs to go bye-bye. Or there's something more for me to go and investigate. Maybe it's not today, maybe it's tomorrow. So you have to really sit with how you speak with spirit. In knowing your highest, strongest psychic ability or abilities, or understanding how those come in and out, it's so important to understand how you can communicate with the higher light. So let me move on to my share. And my share is about a woman, and she was experiencing a bump, um, having a little mental, emotional bump in her journey. Very sad that she had lost her dad recently, and he was that person for her that she would, lay her head on, and he would give that advice that always made things feel better. And now he was not in this physical world, so she was in that type of mind frame when she came in for the reading. And so he did come through beautifully with some evidence, and she resonated fully, and she was so appreciative that he was here with us. And so again, working with that share in clairvoyancy, I said, okay, Dad, I don't know where we're going, but Dad is showing me a pot of honey. And she goes, "A pot of honey? Hmm." She goes, I got nothing for that, Cheryl." And I said, "Okay." I always accept no's. I think that's beautiful, but I see it. So like I mentioned earlier, I know I have to go somewhere with it. So I asked, can you give me more? And then he showed me bees in the honey. And I said, "Bees in the honey pot? Are you resonating with that?" And she's like, "No, I am not resonating at all with that, Cheryl. I really have nothing." And this sitter was completely open. Her heart was open. Sometimes sitters sit and they can't make sense of, or they're looking for another message that maybe so this person was completely open. So I'm like, okay, I know. Okay, I'm going to ask for another sign. And I said, I'm telling this person, I can't believe what I'm seeing, but I just have to tell you what I'm seeing, because that is part of my mediumship journey. Is I'm not here to interpret the messages. I'm here just to deliver them. So I say, I see Winnie the Pooh. And all of a sudden she starts to laugh and cry at the same time. And then she goes on to say, "Can I share?" I said, "Almost certainly." And she says, "During a low period, just this week," she says, "I was thumbing through social media, kind of poking through, and she says, and I saw an inspirational quote with Pooh Bear, Winnie the Pooh, that spoke to me. It was about moving. It'll be okay. Life, this too shall pass." It was that type of, I don't remember exactly the quote, but it had that main idea. And she said, and she goes, "And that just spoke to me. It just gave me some comfort." And I said, "Well, I'm here to tell you that Dad was with you at the time of your viewing. And that is the reason why he's bringing this in so strongly." Because I remember that reading too. And I said, "Can I leave this? Can we move on to something else?" And he said, "No." And so he very much wanted wanted me to follow that popcorn trail and deliver this message. And he's also reminding that he's never far and that you will be okay. And she left just feeling such comfort, in such spiritual arms, in the hug that she was coming needing. And it was really a beautiful reading. So as you can see, clairvoyancy and seeing pictures, symbols, spirits is my dominant psychic ability, and one that I have the earliest experience with. I have learned and continue to learn that visuals are sometimes a direct message, and other times a powerful starting point to the spiritual dance of communication needed as a medium. I also use it as a spiritual tool to validate both personally and professionally when needing that confirmation. When I clear see in my mind's eye, the word yes or the shaking up and down, it affirms for me that my guidance feels light. For light is always right. Have a beautiful day filled with light and love. Thank you so much for allowing me to accompany you on your journey. We have so much to learn together. If you have a topic you feel would be beneficial to spiritual growth, feel free to DM me at Cheryl Bradley Medium or email me at hello@cherylbradley.com. Listening to today's episode, I hope you gained an abundance of light to carry you until the next time we are together. Keep the title of this podcast circling with you today and every day. If it's light, it's right. Have a beautiful day.